Thank you very much, Cathaoirleach, and I've listened very carefully to many of the deputies opposite in their very well-intentioned arguments put forward in connection with the increase in the cost of living. And I too, as a rural TD in Longford Westmeath, through my weekly clinics, meet very vulnerable people every single week that I attend Dáil Éireann here and right through the year. People who come in that are trying to find a solution, that are looking for hope, and that really want support in a very vulnerable time in their lives. So one thing I want to make very clear from the outset is that, I'm meeting very difficult situations, very vulnerable people, and I am doing my best as part of a government response, trying to provide sustainable and real, genuine solutions for those people. I think if we look in broad terms, in the first instance, of where we are currently with a new plan to deliver large-scale residential homes for our citizens right across the state, right out to 2030. And we've seen small incremental progress, but if you look at the big numbers right over since 2016, we've increased the delivery of social homes tenfold. Those are real solutions for people right across the state. Coming from an extremely low base where 2/3 of our construction sector workers had left the state, where our economy was spending 50% more than it took in an income, where we had 3,000 ghost estates in a department where I am now serving, trying to implement remedial schemes up and down the country, to now where we have a very clear plan-led direction for our country, whereby we now have a new national planning framework to deliver and unlock the potential right across our state for all our citizens. And I think when you look at the housing plan, 4 billion multi-annual funding guaranteed to give certainty into the marketplace and into the state in delivering viable solutions. And when you see in terms of the large-scale increase in affordable purchase and also our cost rental model providing certainty for citizens at 25% below market rent, those are real solutions. And if you look at this city here tonight, over the last 4 years, 33% of a reduction in the social housing list. That is progress. And I know many will criticise the pace and it should be done faster. But the circumstances that the government are operating in, there are huge challenges, but it is making progress. And when we refer and look around and see that commencement notices, 31,000 units now commenced. That is a huge 42% improvement on 2020. And again, those are real solutions for families up and down this state and will, as they can see now, provide huge hope. I know in my own locality, when I see people coming in and out of my clinic, I can point to 4 or 5 individual sites in my town with over 100 units being delivered on them. That's hope for people, because the diggers are there, the tradespeople are there delivering those houses, and they are coming. And I know it is very difficult to get to that space, but they are being delivered at scale. And in terms of a cross-government approach, when you see in terms of the way we have supported the most vulnerable in our society towards defraying the cost of living increases, from, in the first instance, increasing the state pension at a time when inflation was not as high, but then more targeted measures like our fuel allowance payment, like our drugs payment scheme, again supporting people on the front line who need it most. And on a broader base then for people who are struggling, two-income families or middle-income earners, they have the energy payment, as well as the reductions that were taken from our tax, our standard rate cut-off point and increase in tax credits over the budgetary process. And if you look at a party that I'm a member of, increased the minimum wage by 37% over the last number of years. We put a priority on taking 35% of workers out of the tax net because they are the most vulnerable people in our society, and a party that I am a member of saw the deprivation index currently reduce because we're supporting people who are the most vulnerable in our society by those targeted measures, by increasing housing supply, by supporting those in most need through the measures that I referenced, and also ensuring that those in a progressive tax system who do not earn as much do not pay any tax. And I always remember when you saw the Controller and Auditor General's report where it said, and many people always quote different figures, in black and white, that the effective tax rate for high net worth individuals was over 40%. And when I was a member of the Public Accounts Committee, That was very clear in page 249, I won't forget it, of that report. And when you hear discourse in this House, sometimes you would think that there's this magic number of people earning huge, colossal amounts of money at the expense of the state and paying no tax. Well, the research and the evidence does not back that up, and you can see that in the Controller and Auditor General's report. And I would point out, Cathaoirleach, as we go through in terms of trying to ensure that people have real solutions, we see other parties who promise and talk in what they will do. But if you look in terms of what they said and promised compared to what this government did, we have exceeded many of what particularly the party opposite had said, and particularly in terms of their house number delivery of 36,500 in your 2016 manifesto, when the government actually delivered 39,000 houses a year earlier. And when I look in our analysis and I see mama and papa landlords exiting the marketplace, 16,000 since 2016, and I look at Sinn Féin looking to put a €400 second homes charge on those people that are trying to make ends meet as well and trying to deliver sustainable rental accommodation. That's your response to a market that's in crisis, is tax it more. And when I see and look around in terms of housing developments and all the objections that are trying to be delivered from Sinn Féin again, time after time, and we saw public houses exclusively on public land in Kilbride Lodge in Wicklow objected to by Sinn Féin. But also in terms of a time when we were trying to prioritise employment, and we saw how the Minister for Finance really underwrote employment, supported people right through the crisis, be it the EWSS, the CRIS scheme, rates waivers, to ensure that people did not lose that vital link with their job. Sinn Féin was proposing to increase employers' PRSI, put a greater tax on people being employed, and in turn have a no-risk assessment, and at a time when the government was spending billions trying to maintain that link between the employer and the employee, their response was to tax them more. And when you look again in terms of the various mechanisms that are being proposed opposite, increasing stamp duty by 66%. You know, if you're a small business owner and you're expanding, how is that going to fare up with you trying to get into a new premises or expand your business? If you're a farmer trying to consolidate your holdings, how will that affect you? Because not everyone qualifies for the minority of reliefs that sometimes you hear referenced in some of the debates that Sinn Féin go on with. But again, you have to support people with the best use of public resources. And when you're in government, you know, you really have to make decisions. And decisions are difficult because you're trying to balance competing interests every day of the week. And that's something I do not take lightly. It's a privilege that I'm humbled to be part of a government that is doing its very best, because I know the background I come from, I know the people I meet week in, week out at my clinic, and I can genuinely say every day in government you do your very best to take the best decisions for the best interest of the public at heart. And by the measures that I've referenced that we have done, we are doing our very best to do that. But in any debate, I think we should never take away hope, because numbers back up the fact that we are now at a huge capacity in our construction sector. We can see that we're getting more apprenticeships back in through Minister Harris in the further and higher education. We can see, as I said, that her output in terms of completions forecasted by the central bank over the next number of years is going to exceed 30,000 and get to that figure of 33,000 that the ESRI say we should need, and hopefully exceed that. And we're working so hard to deliver that across all tenures. But, you know, people can come into this House and identify many different problems, but people on the other benches are trying to do their best to meet one of the biggest challenges we've ever faced in housing, coming from a position, I remember, where all our local authorities were saturated in debt back less than a decade ago. I think the measures that we're doing, and even bringing vacant properties back into use, and signalling now to the marketplace that, you know, through our zone land tax, to our value capture sharing tax potentially coming down the line shortly, that we mean business in delivering large numbers of homes for the most vulnerable and for every part of society, because it has to be a broad base to deliver homes all across our economy. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you, Minister.